Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice Podcast. My name is Elle, and I come to you today again to read some Law of One material, share with you my reflections, and how I use this information and how I apply the lessons to my life or how I may interpret them. So I hope you enjoy. And today's topics are going to be mainly about the dark night of the soul, maybe being overwhelmed, and obviously the end of that, which would be pushing forward. So today's quote is from Ra, and it is from session 80.10, and it's a little bit intricate. However, I'll do my best to reread it after I read it here and just sort of break down some of the parts. And I'll admit even that, maybe I'm a little bit confused on a little bit, so take everything with a grain of salt, use your discernment, and maybe you may see something more here that I don't see, or just in a little different way, and that's okay. So, all right, the quote begins, session 80.10 from Ra, quote, "We may note that the nature of the spirit is so infinitely subtle that the fructifying influence of light upon the great darkness of spirit is very often not as apparent as the darkness itself. The progress chosen by many adepts becomes a confused path as each adept attempts to use the catalyst of the spirit. Few there are which are successful in grasping the light of the sun. By far, the majority of adepts remain groping in the moonlight, and as we have said, this light can deceive as well as uncover hidden mystery. Therefore, the melody, shall we say, of this matrix often seems to be of a negative and evil, as you would call it, nature. It is also to be noted that an adept is one which has freed itself more and more from the constraints of the thoughts, opinions, and bonds of other selves. Whether this is done for service to others or service to self, it is a necessary part of the awakening of the adept. This freedom is seen by those not free as what you would call evil or black. The magic is recognized, the nature is not." End of quote. Ra, session 80.10. All right, so that is filled with many gems, obviously. Let's go into it, and with the very beginning. So we may note the nature of spirit is so infinitely subtle that the fructifying influence of light upon the great darkness of spirit is very often not as apparent as the darkness itself. Well, let's go into infinity. So, you have this matrix of the universe, sort of infinity, the blackness of infinite growth that is the infinite potential of everything. That is sort of time-space, if you will, versus what you and me see in this waking life with our eyes is space-time. It's sort of analog. Now, the metaphysical existence is the one which you would kind of refer to as the time-space, and that's sort of the equal to the infinity of spirit, the darkness of spirit, that matrix of spirit. So as you attempt to use the nature of spirit in growing and learning these lessons of love, basically you come into the matrix, you come into the darkness. If you're awakened to the infinity of the universe, it's going to be a bit overwhelming. It will seem like there's a massive darkness, and then you have incarnated in this darkness, and you may consider yourself a little light. So you're like this light who's come into a big dark space. And obviously that is going to seem very overwhelming because you often don't see the light coming from your heart. You often, instead of looking inside, are caught looking outside. And, everything you see outside in the reflection of spirit is sort of darkness in a way. It's infinite potential. It's the unknown. It's scary. So it can be overwhelming, and that's okay. The idea is that, you're seeing the darkness of spirit that is more apparent than the light itself. So if you see a lot of darkness around you as you sort of awaken to this life of this crazy infinite life, it's a little okay. I've had a friend recently who you may consider be getting like red pilled, which just means like they're sort of awakening to the nature of the universe and the way things are, and it's a very difficult time for this person. It seems that the darkness is creeping in everywhere, right? And I just keep trying to remind that person that light is in their heart, and if they, that will is strong within them to just never give up and always keep pushing forward, they have that potential to do that, and that's that light that we need to assist in growing. And then they continue on to say, the progress chosen by many adepts becomes a confused path as each adept attempts to use the catalyst of spirit. So once again, you're trying to use the catalyst of spirit. It's going to be a bit confusing because within the darkness, you have what they say here, few there are which are successful in grasping the light of the sun. By far, the majority of adepts remain groping in the moonlight. And as we have said, this light can deceive as well as uncover hidden mystery. So, it's hard to just... it's hard to explain like a metaphorical, right? But it's hard to seek the light of the sun. Like, truth is like the harshness of the sun. If we're too distorted and we can't handle that complete undistorted light of truth, which is often the case, it's very harsh, like standing in a desert. You dry you out if you don't have the capability to sort of use the light as sustenance, I suppose you might think. I don't know whether you want to think of that metaphorically or physically. But it's easier and sort of maybe seemingly safer, right, to use the moonlight, which is still truth, right? The light of truth of the sun bounces off the moon, and the moon, say it's a full moon, right? It lightens up the night. So we can still see, right? We can still see truth. We can see things in the night when the moonlight is lighting it up. But at the same time, there's more shadows. There's more darkness creeping around in the sides, right? So the more that we're not completely focused on the truth of the one infinite creator, thy will be done, right? The more that we're kind of seeking to serve the little self, which is okay because it's a process of growing, but that is, in my opinion, kind of groping in the moonlight, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I tell you very much that I'm probably one of these groping in the moonlight people. I find that people who really seek the light of the sun are probably quite rare. So don't be hard on yourself if you're thinking that whoever is recording this podcast thinks that they're a light sun truth seeker. I mean, some days yes, and other days no. I need the comfort of the moonlight, right? Okay, and then there's another way to frame the spirit as well, in that freedom, infinity is free. Free will. It's the first distortion of the universe. It's the first distortion of the law of one, essentially, sort of like the first law, if you will. But it's free will. And so something that's free is sort of scary, right? You don't know whether this freedom is for good, for bad, etc. And that's precisely what this last part of the quote is saying. So it is also to be noted that an adept is one which has freed itself more and more from the constraints of the thoughts, opinions, and bonds of other selves. Whether this is done for service to others or service to self, it is a necessary part of the awakening of the adept. This freedom is seen by those not free as what you would call evil or black. The magic is recognized, the nature is not. Okay, so whether you're doing this for selfish reasons or you're doing it so that you can sort of shed the husks of personality and come to a truer resonance in the heart of self within yourself, that is obviously in service to others, right? Whether you're doing either of these, you're still going to need to sort of disconnect from people just like temporarily, and the thoughts and the bonds of other selves, and they'll see that as sort of evil. They'll be like, I'm sure you've had it actually, where when you try to seek for yourself and do things in your own right, other people will tell you, that's not the way to do it. I know it to be good to do this way. You should do it that way. And you know what? Even then, we can take it a step further and say, I believe that, we should use the force of government to make you do that choice. Okay? So you can see how giving people freedom is scary. It's seen by those not free to be evil. So when you seeking the truth, whether you're seeking for selfish reasons or for service to others, and I assume it's for service to others, people are going to accuse you of being selfish, of they're going to see that freedom is like, how dare you be free? Like, how dare you? I'm playing by all the rules. Why don't you just do what the Matrix says, right? Why don't you just go along with that? It's a lot harder to recognize somebody's freedom and say, I choose my right to do what I will do, and you choose your right to do what you will do. And obviously you can't just paint things black and white like that. I guess it's like where your free will ends, mine begins, and so there's this bit of a dynamic between that where there's no perfect line, but just knowing that free will is that way, and that when you are seeking the truth, you're going to be sort of perceived as maybe evil by some people. When people, those are like some some even religious people will be like, when you're just sort of open to the freedom of the creator and not really necessarily giving it a name, some of those people will just be like, oh, you're a Satanist or whatever, right? So I just don't think that I don't think we should judge those people either. It's fine. You just do your best to do you, and that's all you can do. So let's then just go into a bit of a personal story, because I now am getting more comfortable being vulnerable. I shared in the last podcast some sort of vulnerable things, and I will continue because I got a lot of positive feedback and comments, and I will say that you guys have really helped me through this dark night of the soul to remember what's important, and to remember what's true, and to remember to follow what is in my heart, and to follow that intuition with my intelligence, and use that, and not be gaslit into thinking otherwise. So there's government mandates coming upon me, and I have, for many reasons, medical reasons and personal reasons and religious reasons, have decided not to get that certain thing that of what I'm talking about. And that I also work from home, just for the record, and I am rarely around other people, so it's not like I'm a threat to anybody. But anyways, that doesn't stop the government from seeing my freedom to choose as I see please as a threat, and they have sort of come for my job. So I was really down, thinking, well, first of all, I've worked this job since I graduated high school. It's not a great job. It's just like customer service. And then I sort of, through that 13, 14 years, worked my way to a bit of a higher position within that, and was able to, serve others within these departments. But the point is that it was a slow build to get to the wage that I'm at. And, it sort of has me stuck there in that, or at least I feel that way, right? I feel kind of stuck in that if I'm to leave there, I can't necessarily just get that same wage somewhere else. So anyways, there's a lot of pressure on me. I have like a car payment, and I have a house over my head, like rent that I need to pay, all sort of stuff. Government's coming after you. I'm down in the dirt. I'm just, last podcast, I pretty much was like almost crying on there, right? It's like my dark night of the soul. It was really dark time, and I'm thinking, I'm trying to stay positive, but I'm still really down about it. And I just have to apply these lessons. I remember the infinite darkness of spirit can seem overwhelming and overbearing, but that's probably exactly why we're here, right? Like, we come here to this density, this third density of darkness, so that we can be confused. We do not know what's right. All we have is our intelligence and our intuition, and we can just do what we feel is best. And that is, what I'm trying to do. And I think that, somebody said, whether you think that this is, me being silly or not, like medically speaking, because like maybe I'm being conspiracy theorist or whatever. The point is that I do have, some medical reasons, first of all, but secondly, I just don't feel right about it. Okay. So if I don't feel right about it, and I'm doing that just to get money so I can, keep living the way I do or whatever, that somebody mentioned, don't sell your soul for money. You will always regret it. You will always regret it. Obviously, it's never going to be something that you're going to look back on and think that, well, I could actually, never mind. Obviously, I want to be fair. I could get the thing done, and everything would be fine. And I'd be like, well, maybe that was silly of me. But I'm at the point where I don't want to do it. I really do not feel comfortable. And I just, like it honestly like freaked me out to go to try to get it. So I just by all means just cannot bring myself to do it. And so what did I do? I dug deep down. I have other opportunities. I've thought of all the different ways I can sort of make money. I know it sounds silly, but like even just picking up like a couple of Uber Eats or something, like who the heck knows what I can do. I have possibilities. I was thinking with I have 2 social media pages, The Law of One, and for my sort of more, well, I suppose it'd be kind of conspiracy minded, but my more sort of political, spiritual page where I do a lot of more like F the system stuff. That is my Synchronicity 1111 page. So, between the 2 of those, I do have opportunities to sort of make a little bit of side income. And I have been meaning to do that for a long time, but I always just feel uncomfortable, feel like I'm shilling like product or whatever. So I've done this for years, just doing it because I just love posting. And now I've gone ahead and instead of just wallowing in sadness this past couple weeks and month, I have been working really hard to come up with a couple of different shops in which people can support me in another way, right? Like I really appreciate all your Patreon support and donations through PayPal. Amazing. Some people want to have something to wear or they want to have something back, and in this way I thought, hey, I can create these shops. I can create some cool products. I've already had the t-shirt and the hoodie myself, and they're very comfortable and nice, and yeah, so here I am, and I've made 2 shops, and I sort of the light at the end of the tunnel is becoming a little more apparent. And even though, maybe it hasn't been completely successful, I'm just going to keep pushing forward. And I know that that's the right thing to do. And I'm going to diversify, and I'll keep going and maybe try some spiritual coaching after this. I have lots of opportunities. I do not need to think that my only opportunity is the one that sits in front of me with, I either do this or I just don't get to eat and have rent and stuff. Ain't nobody got time for that. So I'm pushing forward. I'm doing the things that I think I can to make myself feel free, to feel true to myself, and I really hope that you guys can support that. So if you would like to do that, first of all, the Law of One, I have an Ankh hoodie, the one that my logo is about. So you can get that at www.theoneinfinitecreator.com. You'll see a button right away for store/merch. Click that bad boy, and you can get, t-shirt, hoodie, women's t-shirts, v-necks, all that great stuff, even mug and water bottle and whatnot. And then my other website, or my other Synchronicity one for the non-compliers out there and the ones that want to sort of disrupt the narrative and be a glitch in the matrix, that one you can find for my Synchronicity 1111 page is synctees.com. So SYNCTEES.com, like synchronicity, right? synctees.com, and you can see all these awesome designs that I have been working really hard to get out, and I think that you guys might like them. So if you appreciate my service, here is another way that you can give back and look friggin' sweet while you do it. So thank you, everybody, for listening. The quotes at theoneinfinitecreator.com, and there are links to the material for the raw material and the Law of One. You can download it for free from our LL Research folks. And other than that, I love you guys so much. Thank you for the support and all the kind comments and helping me push forward. It really means a lot. And I wanted to add that this quote, which always sticks with me, and I will end on this. So, Quo says, if you set your intention to serve, you shall serve beyond your wildest dreams. And it has been pretty wild already. I believe I've set my intention to serve a while back, and I'll tell you, things have been pretty wild. So get out there, set your intention, ask, get through your dark night of the souls. You go down so that you can come back up with a new perspective. I love you guys. Keep pushing forward. See ya.